Totally bizarre year preparing for the NFL draft where teams won't be in their facilities. Everyone will be remote and there's no pre-draft visit. So how does the Saints medical staff get evaluations on these players? Let's find out from the Saints team doctor, Dr. Chip Bengston. Also is the guy who cut on my knee last September. Last September. How are you, Doc?
I'm doing great, Matt. How are you? You walking okay?
Yeah, man, I'm doing good. The knee, look at it. I mean, we're just cruising along here. Actually, nobody wanted to see that on TV because I'm not wearing pants today. I'm wearing shorts. So
Yeah, you're like everybody else.
Right?
Everybody else that's at home, right?
And normally I would come in here and your slacks or jeans or something like that. But at this point, it's like, come on, just ain't nobody else in here. Just I'm
casual Tuesday.
Yeah, below the desk too. It's the old anchor trick, right? You wear the jacket and the tie, up top, and then you got your shorts on below. So whatever works, man.
Keep it classy.
Indeed, I'm trying. Okay, so let's just start with a very obvious one. How tough has this been to try to go through medical evaluations when you can't medically evaluate players?
Well, I mean, I think the hard part is really all the COVID stuff happened after the combine. It was probably about, we finished the combine from a medical standpoint, I think around the 27th or 28th of February. And then so fast forward 2 weeks later. So at the end of the combines, there's a stack of probably anywhere from 35 to 45 players that have either had a recent injury. It could be something as simple as straining their hamstrings. They can't run at the combines. To they just had their ACL or shoulder surgery at the end of the 2019 season, and they're still rehabbing from it. So they literally can't run yet, or they can't throw, or they can't do bench. And so you have this stack of, like I said, anywhere 35, 45 players that they're a part of the rechecks. That means we all expected come the end of February that we'd see these 35, 45 players again, get another exam, make sure they're progressing well, get MRIs, and just make sure that these people are still on target to potentially either be ready for training camp or mini camp or OTAs. And so not, leaving with the draft thinking we're going to see these guys again, it's no big deal, to, okay, you don't even get a chance to examine these people again. It makes it a little challenging. Fortunately, the NFL Physician Society has people scattered around the nation, and we've got a number of team doctors, both in college as well as within the NFL, that are willing to kind of see players that are maybe still post-operatively rehabbing and get a feel for how they're doing. But it's not the same. You're still kind of relying on other people to give you data, and that makes things a little bit more challenging, just at least from the medical standpoint.
Just to go back, and I'll pick up there in a second, but to go back, how common is it, because you said there are 35 to 40 rechecks this year, how common is it to have those rechecks where the guys you evaluate at the combine, you're like, all right, before draft, we're going to see them again?
Every year.
Okay.
It's an every year thing. And so it's anywhere from that 30 to 40 range, I would say. And most of them are players that maybe they had a shoulder injury in the middle of the 2019 season that they were able to play through but needed to be fixed. So as soon as their bowl games are done, they're fixed. But that may take them 5 or 6 months to recover. And so you're seeing them sometimes with stitches still in their shoulder or stitches still in their knee, and they just had surgery. And so it's almost like I said, it's an expectation. You're finishing the combines and saying, oh, we're going to see this guy again. So if we didn't get all the imaging we needed, we'll get it again. And so that, again, makes it a little more challenging. The other part of this is, the NFL allows a certain amount of players to be interviewed by the coaching staff or the scouts or the management, general managers and such, both at the Senior Bowl, at the combines, and then you have the 30 visits. And so, they have the Senior Bowl. You can see some people and talk to some people from a management side at the combines just to get to know the players. And then there's 30 players that they may bring back into the facility, to the Saints facility or whatever team, to not only just get to know the player further, but also sometimes to get a better feel for them medically. And so there's certain players that we didn't even have the 30 visits this year. That in itself also kind of adds a little bit. Plus, you start throwing in, league year began mid-March. So you got all these players that were free agents some have been signed and kind of got their physicals done just in time before the league shut everything down, and some of them didn't. And so you don't have a physical, you can't necessarily execute a contract, which means you can't start getting paid. So there's a lot of little nuances that work against us here in trying to get things rolling. And I'm not like everybody else. I'm not sure when this is going to clear up and end. I mean, it's certainly at this point, you don't see many rookie mini camps, which happens for at least the Saints are supposed to happen a couple weeks after the draft. I don't see that happening. I mean,
Right.
Who knows when this all kind of lifts up for us. So,
and one of the interesting things also about just when you talk about free agency, a guy like Jadeveon Clowney, because he's not been able to go get a physical. I mean, that's a primary reason nobody signed him. So moving, and Chip Bengston's with us, Dr. Chip Bengston. He's a Saints team doctor, they're orthopedist. Obviously, this would be a busy time preparing for the draft and going over through guys' medicals. So what are the conversations then like between you and the Saints front office about I'm certain you can't speak specifically about certain players individually, but what are those conversations like?
I'll tell you what normally happens. So we'll have probably anywhere from 3 to 4 kind of medical meetings trying to compress the huge amount of data to kind of compress it and give it to people like Coach Payton and Mickey Loomis and Jeff Ireland so that they can make good decisions from a football standpoint. And so, we'll get all these 600 MRIs and hundreds of X-rays and hundreds of CT scans and all these things just from an orthopedic standpoint, and then try to figure out who's healthy, who's sort of healthy, who's maybe not that healthy, and then try to grade these players based off of this kind of orthopedic exam we do at the combines plus all this data. So we have a meeting, maybe kind of just a 4 or 5 hour meeting just to basically condense all this stuff before we present it at the first medical meeting usually it's a room of 20, 30 people in the room. You've got scouts and coach and GMs and assistant GMs and people like Jeff Ireland and Mickey Loomis and all the Coach Payton kind of just basically hearing what we have to say and talking about and explaining why we are concerned about these players. And so it's a big meeting. And then we'll have after the rechecks, we'll have another meeting that's kind of the same, another maybe 2 or 3 hour meeting where we're also kind of going over some old players, but also people we just examined again at the rechecks. And so that's what normally would happen. And so when the league started telling people we can't be in the facility unless you're a doctor or a trainer or somebody that's attending to an injured player or a rehabbing player or a player, basically everybody else got kicked out. I mean, I went over there to see some players 2 weeks ago, and it was like a ghost town. I've never seen that few people in the facility. And so, we basically, the trainers and I got together and did like a Zoom meeting and kind of tried to do this with, the same kind of crew of people, maybe 4 or 5 rather than 20 on a Zoom meeting to basically just go over some of the same players. And it really becomes more challenging, I would say, not so much for me, but I just would say the front office. It's just so much information. And then you may say, I would normally see this player at rechecks. We got to go find out if this guy's running. We got to go, track down some video from another player's agent or somebody they're training with to say, just make sure they could run, because at the combines they weren't running, or make sure that they're progressing well from their ACL rehab. It looks like they'll do some drills for you. And so it's not necessarily the same, but you're having to kind of find all this data that's out there and hope that people are going to give you the information, because in the end you're a little bit at the mercy of the information you're given in this situation, in that if you're injured and you aren't maybe at 100% following a surgery, or just maybe your knee's not good to begin with, you're probably not going to want to give a whole lot of information to somebody willingly. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
I mean, if you have an injured knee and you're going to show bad film and not show yourself sprinting and cutting and pivoting like you normally did before your injury, then probably sharing that information with the rest of the NFL isn't something you want to do as a player. So, which I get. I mean, this is their livelihood, and I'm really just at this point kind of trying to condense all this information and kind of help the Saints determine health and risk of injury, which is not always easy.
So and that's a great point. So do you know if the Saints, by policy, if they can't get a medical check on a prospect, will they take that prospect off the board?
Most of the time we're able to call, look, we're in the middle of a meeting, we're able to call an agent or call somebody that we know that's a trainer. Like some of these, I mean, like LSU, most of the training staff I think it's all shut down there, but we still have good relationship with the athletic trainers at the Saints have good relationship with athletic trainers that were taking care of a number of these players before everything got shut down, so they could make a phone call and say, what was going on with this guy? As long as they've just, they have to sign a disclosure saying they're okay to talk, the trainers are okay to talk to each other. It's, I don't know how, I think most of the time they're able to get the information they need, but it's, it's not as good as, hey, let me just take a feel on his knee and shoulder and make sure that they're actually still continuing to progress well. So it's a little bit of this. There's certain situations where I've had you may have a situation where, look, you may not be able to know whether or not this guy is truly healthy until he gets here, and that is a little bit of a concern. In that, you've had all this information from the combines. Maybe this person's still again rehabbing from an injury, but you don't have an opportunity to see him again, and you may not get the information you need before you get to the draft and say, maybe I don't have this information that I really would like to have before making a decision on this player. So I think most of the time we're able to get all that information and provide that, but that's part of the equation. Like I said, I think this is more difficult on the front office management, just in the preparation for the combines.
Yeah.
Sorry, from the combines leading into the draft.
A couple more minutes here with Dr. Chip Bengston, of course, over at the Baton Rouge Orthopedic Clinic at Brock, great partners of ours here, and he's also the Saints team orthopedist. So really trying times right now, trying to get ready for the draft when you can't evaluate players during this period. Will you be involved on draft day? Are you typically involved on draft day?
Yep, I'm there. We have some set amount of people that are typically there at the facility. Now that everybody's going to be drafting from home, so it may be literally me with a big bunch of patient charts and another colleague of mine who's the director of sports medicine, kind of working together remotely to kind of give the coaches and the scouts and the management all the information they need. But usually I'm there Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday, and I'm, watching a lot of stuff on television, reading a lot of journals, hanging out, chatting, and then every once in a while they need some information, and we're there to provide it to them.
Can I come over and watch the draft at your house?
As long as we socially distance,
Absolutely. I'll bring a really good bottle of whiskey and I'll sit in the corner. I just want to watch how all that goes.
Look, or you can just send the whiskey, man. I'll
take
the whiskey.
What if I bring 2 bottles? I'll drink one. I'll leave one for you. How about that?
Yeah, look, I know, and I think you said you're a rye guy too. So I'll take whatever you're drinking.
All right. I actually think you might be kind of maybe entertaining the notion legitimately. So I'll follow up later.
Look,
I
I can't be drinking on the job.
No, you don't have to. I will.
Yeah, okay, good. You can sit back and relax and enjoy your cocktail while I'm at work.
That's the point. I just want to watch. I just want to I'll be a fly on the wall. I'll be a wallflower.
Well,
just gonna hang out.
Look, I'll tell you, it is a fly on the wall when you're there in the Saints facility during a non-COVID draft. It's really impressive, the orchestra of information that's being passed back and forth, especially as you start getting towards the later rounds, and it's an impressive feat what goes on. And I'm still amazed at how they're able to boil down all this information and make great decisions.
Yeah, I believe it. All right, last thing for you. Let me give you a hypothetical. I know the Saints aren't going to draft Tua, but let's just take that instance where, we do have this little video that he released, of him running a little drill, but since the combine, no one's obviously been able to medically evaluate him. So what would you say, given the limited information that you'd have about a prospect like Tua?
Well, I think that's also where, and I mentioned this before, is there are some situations where there's doctors that are NFL physicians or doctors that the NFL physicians have a good relationship with, can kind of lean on to say, look, this is a reputable doctor. Go in and at least have this guy in your area take a look at you, somebody who's somewhat objective. And look, Tua has one of my mentors, Lyle Kane from University of Alabama, who is just a great doctor and great surgeon and trusted physician. And so it just helps to have somebody else in your area where you're rehabbing, somebody like Tua or somebody else, to come and lay hands on you objectively and say, yeah, this is what I see at this moment in time. And look, some players are doing that. They realize that they don't have the rechecks to rely on, and they did have a question of their of their health, and they really needed to seek out people close by that were reputable that could help them prove their health. And players are doing that, and that's what I would advise any number of players that are kind of in that recheck pile to go and do, because it really helps probably them out the most.
He's Dr. Chip Bengston, the Saints orthopedist, part of the Brock team over there at the Baton Rouge Orthopedic Clinic. Really good knowledge, man, and insight. I am going to follow up with you on the draft, so I'll probably just show up at your house. I'll social distance. I'll wear a mask. Oh, it's all good.
All right, good. Please. Plenty of hand sanitizer.
I've got tons of that, trust me. I appreciate the time, man. We'll talk soon, all right?
Good catching up.